How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Game Brigade. My name is Bryan, and today we're doing the Should You Back video for Moonrakers. Moonrakers just launched on Kickstarter. There is a content blitz. I am surprised at the amount of content being generated for Moonrakers. It's obviously a very good game. The campaign page is extremely dense, so it can be difficult for people who are maybe new to Moonrakers to kind of wade through it. Although I do think Ivy Studios has gone out of their way to try to give you as much information as possible. I'm going to try my best to kind of break it down and make it easier for you guys to understand if that's something you might need. So stay tuned for that. Let's hit it. Okay, so right off the bat, this is Moonrakers Titan, and Titan is going to be encapsulating all three of the new expansions as well as the big box. So we're going to talk about all of that. There's also some surprises that I didn't know were going to be coming in this Kickstarter, so we're going to be talking about that because I want to make sure I give you guys my full, complete recommendation. So we are on day one, 25 days left to go in the campaign, already at 722,000. That is awesome. I would love to see them break 1 million in the first day. Not quite sure they're going to be able to get there in the first day, but I bet you can see these guys get to maybe 1 to 1.5 million by the end of the campaign, which would be incredible for Ivy Studios. So what is Moonrakers? If you are either a returning backer from the original Moonrakers campaign, or you purchased it from the retail store from Ivy Studios, or if you are completely new to the Moonrakers experience, I'm going to explain what Moonrakers is, and then we'll talk about the campaigns and each individual expansion so you have a good idea. Moonrakers is a deck building negotiation based game where players are going to be building their ship out using different types of crew and ship parts and different types of action cards as they customize their deck, and they're playing as they go on contracts to complete different types of rewards. And you're going to negotiate with your other players that you're playing against because you're going to need their assistance to complete some of your tasks. It's an interesting concept because these are people you are playing against. You are playing against your opponents. You are actively trying to beat them, but you might need their help. You are most likely going to need their help going on some of these contracts to complete them. And so you might have to give up some rewards that contract's going to provide, such as victory points or coins or even free cards. These are things that you can negotiate and trade. So players are going to be negotiating, trading with one another, supporting each other as you go on missions, to the point where you're going to get your ship kind of built up, and then usually there's a final push by players to try to do missions solo so they can try to win the game on their own. So that is Moonrakers at its core. It is a deck building game with a core of negotiation added. So what comes in the Titan expansion or Kickstarter here? Well, there are going to be 3 new types of expansions that are going to be building up Moonrakers in different ways. We're going to be talking about that. And the Titan box is basically a big box to support everything in a single unit. So if you're looking for kind of like an all-in-one storage solution as well as all the expansions, that would be this one. So we're going to go through each one. Obviously, they have a great breakdown here on the page of Binding Ties, Overload, and Nomad. Those are the 3 standalone expansions. They also have the free-to-play Luminor digital game, but it does require a version of Moonrakers, the base game at minimum, but it is free. So if you already own Moonrakers, this is a free add-on that you can play. It's, right now they talk about it's on a certain page, but it will be on Steam at some point. That's awesome. And then we're going to be getting some additional things based on the Kickstarter box. We'll talk a lot about this later, but they just have so much. The Kickstarter page, I called it dense when I went through this because there's just so much overloaded information. They also have a 48-hour reward. If you are backing within the first 48 hours, you'll get more Armada as a holographic. And this card is considered to be one of the most powerful cards in the game, subtracting 2 from any 1 requirement. That is very, very powerful. So let's go ahead and scroll on down to the first expansions, and we'll talk about them in general. Okay, so right off the bat, we're going to talk about Binding Ties. I have a full video on Binding Ties, but if you're not looking to watch a 15-minute video on this expansion, I'll give you the rundown on how this one works. Binding Ties is a addition to Moonrakers that is going to take the negotiation aspect for it and really put it on its own pedestal and say, okay, how can we make the negotiations better or more unique or interesting for players? I kind of considered it almost a boost in terms of speeding the game up as well. So how this works is, as players go on contracts together, as you bring your opponents with you to help you on contracts, you are going to be gaining faction rep with those players. You're going to be moving up this chart with their color dial. You're then able to then turn those in by spending credits, by moving it back down the chart to get different types of rewards, such as draw an objective card, trash a card from your hand, gain 1 free bonus card, or subtract 2 from any one requirement. Kind of interesting, you know, we talked about that being one of the most powerful cards. So these are things that you're going to be able to do by turning in those faction rewards. So this is effectively going to be speeding up the game in ways. It's going to be basically turning up the RPMs on it and saying, how can we make this game move a little quicker? But it also really helps players, especially player groups that might have more difficulty in the negotiation process, to be more comfortable in learning how to negotiate and say, okay, I'm going to be giving you some credits, yes, but I'm also going to get a return because I'm going to get that faction point from you, so I get to spend that later. So it's a way for players to get more comfortable with the negotiation process. Personally, I think Binding Ties is a great expansion, but it doesn't really fit for my player group because we don't have really the problem negotiating, and I don't really like the RPM speeding up for the game. I like the game feeling like it's going a little longer, and I want to be able to feel like I'm getting my cards as they're going. But depends on the player group. So that's my opinion on this one. So let's come on down to the next one, Overload. Moonrakers at its core is a deck building game. You're going to be buying cards from the market, adding them to either your tableau, which is your ship, or your deck, which is going to be crew members. Overload basically says, let's just jam a bunch of more shit onto the game and say, what else can we come up with? Not only does Overload going to enhance by adding more crew and ship parts, it comes with an entirely new base action cards that are basically hybrids of the ones that come in the base game. So for example, hey, look at that pretty looking guy right there. So for example, here they are. So normally in the game, you have thrusters that draw 2 cards. A reactor gives you 2 actions. Well, here, this bonus thruster gives you 3 cards. This bonus reactor gives you 3 actions. So they are basically enhancements on the original base game action cards, but then they have some that are cross compatible. They have one that's an advanced thruster, which gives you 2 cards plus an action, or a reactor, which gives you 2 actions plus a card. So they really came up with some hybrid versions of these cards that you can purchase or upgrade through synergies in either ship parts or crew members. For example, I feel like I had a ship part that said I could flip over the top card of my deck, and then I could exchange that card for another card of the similar type. So if it was a basic reactor, I could go and get a upgraded reactor and add that to my deck. So these are some types of those customizations that you can do for your game. So not only did it do all of this, it also added a lot more strategies to the game for players to really play around with. There's a lot more depth in here with the ion spheres, which are these right here, which are basically charges that you can play in front of you, building up the power of your deck so that when you go to a harder contract the next turn, you're going to have more resources available to you. So there's a lot more strategies that Overload presents, and in my opinion, it is a core expansion that you must have if you are a deck building fan. It's just going to be adding so much more to the experience. And then finally, we're going to be finishing up with Nomad, and Nomad is going to bring the tactile, because it's, I want to say tactile, not tactical, but you can say that, tactile theme from Nomad, or from Moonrakers, into a physical space. And what do I mean by that is they're going to be taking the board and placing it here in the center, and they're going to be changing the entire way the contracts are laid out. Normally, contracts are laid out in a row of 3 and 3, so 6 contracts are available. all players can see them at any time, and they could be random and all over the place. Now, based on the new Nomad board, they're going to be divided based on their color designation. So you have green, blue, yellow, orange, and purple. So those contracts are going to be spread apart. And those contracts usually have a type of mission, that type of requirements that you complete that are going to be more akin. So if you're going to green, those are shield colors. So most likely you're going to see contracts that have more shield requirements. So players can now customize their deck and their strategy, and then go get contracts that based on their strategy that they're trying to complete. Also, Nomad is going to be providing a new 15-point board, which players can use to get to 15 points instead of 10 points. So you can have a little bit longer game. A lot of times in Moonrakers, you'll feel like your deck is just starting to become alive. Things are just starting to happen. This is very common in Euro engine builders as well, where you just feel like you starting to get going and then the game's over. Well, going to 15 points extends the game only by 2 or 3 more rounds, but allows you to feel like you get to really experience the customization of your deck to the fullest. So I really do enjoy that as well. There are other things to Nomad that are really cool. So as I mentioned, they add this board. It's going to change the negotiation process as well, because as you're flying with your physical ships to these different locations, only opponents that are adjacent to you can actually help you with your contracts. So for example, in this example on the screen, you can see that this ship here is in the green section. Well, only this yellow ship and this purple ship are able to help because they are adjacent. This ship here and this ship here are too far away to join in on the negotiations. So there are strategy points with this. And on top of that, you're not able to stay at the same location twice. So once it goes back to your turn, you have to move. But let's say this yellow player is building 4 reactors. It's blue. Well, if he flies over here and helps the green, back on his turn, he can fly back to blue and do another blue contract. So there are even more bonuses for players to want to help and go on contracts, because it really can change the type of movement that they're going to be completing. Very, very smart. The other things that we have here are the new event policies. These are going to be in a deck that each player is going to draw at the start of their turn, and there are going to be different types of passives that are going to be triggering for all players, or a event that's going to basically be a policy that'll sit in play and affect everyone, that we're all going to be voting on. If it passes, it's going to go in play. If people vote and deny it, it goes away. So for example, you see up here, if you see reply yes or no, that is going to be a vote. And so all players will be voting on this one. Ship parts cost 1 credit more, while crew costs 1 credit less. So everyone will vote. You kind of do your thumbs, and you thumbs up or thumbs down, and now that is your vote. And then we have Sorelia. This is the new location for purple. The crew-based contracts in the base game were kind of limited. They really expanded upon that in Nomad as well. And Sorelia, if you do a mission from there, you're most likely going to get a prototype ship part. These are going to be very powerful, very hard to get prototype ship parts, but they are going to be incredible if you're able to complete the Sorelia contracts. So those are the 3 expansions, but there again is so much more going on here. The Titan box is going to be a complete storage solution for all of that. And one of the things I really like, if you see here, I didn't have this in my prototype, but they actually have stickers or some sort of labeling system here, so you can tell where everything goes. So this is a great example of what it should like in a production model. So that's really cool. We're going to come on down though. They have this KS Edition foil, and I want to talk about what they're doing with this foiling, because this is super neat. They're going to be presenting players with a couple of these new packs that are for players to add to their game. It's kind of their add-ons. So we're going to come on down to the add-on section. Okay, first off, negotiation board. This is interesting because I have not seen about this. They didn't really talk about this to any of us content creators. This will be a track to kind of track any type of negotiation that's happening. We haven't had much problems with that, but I could see me wanting this. This is a way for us to kind of keep track of who's getting what, where's it going, and that way you don't have to have a scorekeeper or someone who's, you know, tracking everything while we're doing the contract. But usually we haven't had too much of an issue with our plays. The Demigod pack, the Endless. This is something I wanted to scroll back up to kind of talk about this. They are going to be taking a expansion. They're making an expansion from their past other game, Veiled Fate, and bringing these characters, these demigods from Veiled Fate, into the game. I think this is super cool. I love crossover content like that. So this is going to be a pack of 10 crew inspired by characters from Veiled Fate. So just enhancing more of that deck builder option, but also bringing forth that kind of cross content. Next we have, let's come on down again. We have Moonrakers Platinum Edition. The big box will not be available to buy after the base game. I feel like this is just the Kickstarter version of Moonrakers. This is just the standard Kickstarter version, but they're calling it Platinum now. You have the expansions. So we have here each individual expansion. If you wanted to buy them individually for your content, it's $35, or you can buy all three for $99. So you're saving a little bit of money there. And then the Titan big box. This is basically what I had for my prototype. We have the big box, which is empty, and then you have the 3 expansion boxes that will go in there with your pre-owned base game. If you do not own Moonrakers, okay, you have to buy the base game. So that's important to note. You're going to have to buy this base game. So they have the Titan box plus the base game. So the Titan big box will include Binding Ties, Overload Nomad, and the base game. So this is basically what you're looking for if you're brand new and you're looking to get everything that's gameplay related. This is what you're going to be wanting. So this is kind of like what I have right now. Plus I have 2 micro expansions from the original Kickstarter. And we're going to talk about those as well, which is right here, the Shard. I have this one. The Expand Your Universe with new contract crew and ship parts. That includes 5 crew, 5 ship parts, and 5 contracts, and sleeves for each. So I bought this one with the original expansion. So I actually talked about one of my last videos that I had a micro expansion. This is what it's called, the Shard. Then we have the Holo Pack. They are going to be adding in more Holo cards for every 25. I don't know where it is on here, but they talk about for every $25,000 that they get past their initial goal, they're going to be expanding upon this pack. So if you're looking to get holo cards that replace some of the base game cards, this would be your purchase for that. And then they have the gold holo Moramanda. This is the free card if you're within the first 48 hours. It'll be $5 after. Extra hazard dice. Right now the base game comes with 4 hazard dice. There are very rare situations you're ever going to need more than 4 in any situation. But if you dislike passing hazard dice around, then I could see buying more. I personally don't think you need it, but there is section in the Titan box. There is a section for an additional hazard dice if you decide to go that route. The Moonraker Crew Pin Pack. Again, this is just pins. This is for people who are a collector of memorabilia. So I can't give you evaluation in terms of if this is a good purchase or not. This is more of your personal taste. They've got the Showcase Pin Pack, same thing, but this is going to be showing more products from their other lines. So you have Veiled Fate and you have Mythic Mischief here, as well as their Moonrakers and Ivy Studios. I think this is cool if you want to show support for a company, give them a little bit more bonus for building a product that's pretty sweet. I think that's a great thing, and when you go to cons, you can have some representation for a company that is, you know, a really cool company. And if you're looking for just Moonrakers, Pin Pack 3 is $14. I'd probably go with, if I was going to buy any of them, I'd probably buy Pin Pack 2 because I think these pins are cool. Then we have some metal upgrades, and I'm going to talk about some of these because I have some opinions. Hematite hazard dice. Again, I don't think I really need dice that are extra in Moonrakers. I generally recommend buying extra dice in games. I think a lot of times they don't give you enough dice, but they do in this game. You have enough dice. But these are going to be hematite. They're going to be heavy, clunky, chonky, and if you like to have some weight to your throw, this is something you're going to be looking at. I don't know if I necessarily would want that. for the cost. I mean, you're looking at $5 regular dice. You're looking at $30 plus for the hematite. So I would pass on these. Extra metal coins. I have never needed extra coins in my 4 and 5 player games of Moonrakers. I think the base amount they give you is completely fine, and the base game comes with metal coins, so you're already getting the deluxeified components of metal coins in it. Now let's talk about the metal ship tokens, because this is part of my opinion. I have the base game, which I have the metal coins, and I have plastic ships with mine. The plastic ships are the biggest disappointment for me when it comes to the overall aesthetic, because it doesn't feel like they fit with everything else being such high class. So if you were to get any type of deluxeified component, in my opinion, someone who's played like 20 plus games of Moonrakers, I think the metal ships are something that I regret not buying, and I'll most likely be picking these up in this campaign. The only thing that is holding me off is Nomad requires you to have a second set of ships, because you got to have ships for the track and you got to have ships to fly around on. Because of that, I would almost maybe think of maybe using something else for the victory track and only use my metal ships on the Nomad board. So if I want to avoid having to spend extra money, maybe I would use an ion sphere here, one of these tokens that represent my color. But these are also divided out perfectly for the amount of players that you can technically have. So I don't know. I would hate to spend $60 on metal ships on 10 metal ships. But that's something I would be considering. That's the only type of upgrade I probably would get. Now, if you're wanting to save some money, if you're looking to get all of these metal tokens, you can get the bundle here for $60. I will tell you the ion spheres. I think about the 6 games that we've played of these that have these as available options to play with. Very rarely do people ever actually play those type of cards. I think I'm like the only person in our group who's played these ion spheres. Most people don't buy them, so I don't know how much value you're going to get from these. And again, the metal faction, faction reps, I would love to have all of these. I mean, if I could afford it. But you're looking at a whole nother Kickstarter game here in the metal tokens, right? But the metal faction reps, I think these again would be cool. But Binding Ties is going to be the least played expansion in my collection, so I'm not sure if I want to upgrade those at all. And then you have Neoprene Addons. This is probably something I would highly recommend. And I normally hate recommending playmats, but the playmats, at least in my copy of Moonrakers, are kind of warped. And they bend a lot. And I don't think it's the quality of the board. I don't know what it is, but I have really wanted playmats to replace my current mats. And because there's a spot in the Titan expansion box to replace them, I'll probably be getting these playmats. And then you have the sleeves. I have all the sleeved already, so I'll just re-sleeve everything that I have with the actual retail game, because I sleeved up my prototype copy. So I'll just move my sleeves over. So that's me. But if you're looking for sleeves, I think a deck builder needs sleeves. You're shuffling all the time. You got cards moving all the time. I think you need sleeves. And then finally, we have the IV Vault. IV Studios is basically going to let you to purchase any of the past content that they've created. Just be aware that usually this stuff ships when Moonraker ships. So you're going to be having a big collection of games showing up at your door. But we have Veiled Fate. I've got this game. I've got this version right here. A great little hidden influence game where players are trying to influence their specific demigod by moving up the track, but you don't want people to know who you are. So you're trying to trick them by playing with other characters as well. Interesting little game. And then we've got Mischief. This is a game that was their last release. Very highly touted as one of the best abstract games where players are going to be taking on these faction roles here. You can see the ghosts, trolls, witches, and there's some core ones here as well. And then players are going to be trying to get the library headmaster to catch the other players. So they're kind of playing goofs and tricks on each other in school, and being somewhere where they're not supposed to be, by using different types of powers and abilities. It's a very interesting game, very abstract, but very fun. And I actually really enjoy the theme. I think it does really well. So that is going to wrap up the game. We're going to finish up with shipping though, because I think this is really interesting and it might be confusing if you don't read the text. So here they have regions. They basically state what region is what. If you need to check what they are, I would double check, through here what zones are what zones. But US lower 48, that's the vast majority of my audience, so we're going to talk about that one. They have the expansions, base game, Titan box. These are the costs of what everything costs for them to ship. This is what the backer cost is going to be. They're going to be doing flat rate subsidized shipping here. So they talk about that right here. We've chosen to subsidize shipping to a flat rate for each region to keep things simple. Using a flat rate also means that the more you purchase, the more we can subsidize. So here we go, $15 for the lower 48. Again, we're going to wrap up here, but I want to finalize. Again, I honestly think we need to support companies who are transparent and who go out of their way to try to make the game as accessible for everyone by reducing shipping costs. When we have other companies doing $78 for similar size content, and then you've got IV Studios doing $15, these are companies we need to champion and say, this is who we want to support for our Kickstarter funds. So that's where I am. I've always loved IV Studios. I've owned all their product. I've been super happy with them. I'm happy to support their company in terms of giving them content. So whatever I can do to support them, I am. And so that's it. So we're going to wrap this up. So what are your guys' thoughts here on Moonrakers? I feel like of the 3 expansions, my opinion would be Overload and Nomad, again, are no-brainers. You have to pick them up. Binding Ties I'll get because it's cheaper for me just to get all 3 and bundle them in the Titan box. But I'll probably only play it when I'm playing with people who are brand new to either board gaming or to Moonrakers. So like if I'm teaching this game to newer people. This is the other thing. I've been asked this question a few times. Is Moonrakers accessible to newer players and what I consider a gateway type game? I actually do think Moonrakers is very accessible for players that are newer to board gaming. It's not a complex game. It's very simple, very easy to teach. The concepts are very good. The iconography in terms of what cards do and what they're able to do is super simple to keep track of. The only thing I think is difficult, and we still have problems with this in my group now, is keeping track of actions. So generally what we do, obviously you start with one action base unless you have parts that can modify that. And then as you play a card, it costs an action. So we have to go, okay, we have 2 actions. We have 3 actions, back to 2 actions. Then we have 3 actions, back to 2 actions. So we're having to constantly keep track of it. That's the only thing about Moonrakers gets a little stinky. Now, some people are able to play their cards and just keep track of their actions in front of them and be like, well, I played 4 reactors, so I know how many actions I have. But sometimes I see that people have more difficulty with that, so we kind of do this finger counting. We have usually one other player who's the finger counter for a contract. So that's the only thing I want to make sure I mention. Otherwise, I love Moonrakers. I think it's a great game, and I'm glad to support them. So if you guys like this video, make sure you leave a comment down below. Give me a thumbs up. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on Moonrakers. Are you backing it? Is this something that's on your radar? Let me know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys watching till the end. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.